Welcome to another flip video lesson with Mr. Volkman. Today's lesson will be on 14.3, and we're going to focus solely on one day in American history, and that day would be Andrew Jackson's Inauguration Day. It's important that we look at his Inauguration Day because it really sets the mood for who his presidency is going to be focused upon. And it shows you the difference between the two different mindsets amongst the two different groups of people of who either liked or disliked Andrew Jackson. First off, Andrew Jackson was seen as the people's president. He was the first president not from the East Coast. The previous six had all grown up on the East Coast. He was from the frontier, and as such, had a frontiersman-like attitude and persona and personality. People in the frontier were probably very different than people living on the East Coast. It would be akin to someone living out in the Cascade Mountains versus someone living in Seattle, Washington during present day. Two very different mindsets. Jackson's inauguration was a celebration for people that were like him, people who viewed themselves as self-made men and or women who came from nothing to fight against the difficulties of life with no one's help but their own sweat. Now, let's talk about before the mayhem of his actual inauguration day. Now, many people came to watch Jackson being sworn in. In fact, as Andrew Jackson made his trek from where he was to Washington, D.C. to be sworn in as president, he was stopped multiple times to where he had to get off the train, wave, shake people's hands. The people were so excited that they finally had Andrew Jackson, a man of the people, as president. In fact, there was such passionate cheering for Andrew Jackson while he was sworn in that even the elites from D.C., from Washington, D.C., those upper class people, the very rich people, the men who wore the nice fancy top hats and the coats, and the women with the scarves made out of animal fur, they were even impressed at the passion that these common folk felt for this new president. Now, the real craziness started during the White House reception. A little bit of background. Now, this reception was very fancy pants. And I mean fancy pants because they wore fancy pants or dresses. Only the rich, the high society, which is the rich upper class or government officials, came to this fancy dinner to celebrate a president's inauguration. However, common people were invited and came to this reception as well for the very first time. As a result, the White House was very crowded with people. The White House was quickly seen as being too small to accommodate everyone. That, combined with the fact that the White House staff was not prepared for all this people, resulted in a lot of problems. Dishes were broken, drinks were spilled on very expensive furniture and rugs. Nice carpets were stepped on in a way that most of the rich people frowned upon, and even some accounts stated that even couches were stood upon as well. People were bumped and elbowed. In fact, even some of Jackson's friends were worried about his safety, so they actually got him out a back door. There's another story about a government official who was pressed against the wall and thought he'd be squished, so he opened up a back window and crawled out. Now, I want you to take a moment and I want you to look at this painting of supposedly what it looked like in the White House for the reception. Now, I titled this slide, Mayhem versus No Big Deal. You see, the upper class felt that, oh yeah, it was crazy. Those common folk, are going to ruin our country. Some people felt like, it was really no big deal. It wasn't quite that bad at the reception. The person who painted this picture, what do you think their opinion was of that night? If you email me, I'll give you extra credit if you let me know who you think painted this picture and why. Since inauguration was the dawn of a new beginning for our country. And you can see how this was a dawn of the new beginning just by looking at the differences in the people who attended this White House reception. You had the elites and the rich, who for a lot of our country's history felt that they knew best how to govern the United States of America. And they wanted everyone else to fall in line quietly and not to cause a fuss, because they were the elites, they were the rich, they were the wealthy, they were the educated. You then had the regular people, who were absolutely overjoyed at having Jackson as their president. They felt he was their savior. They felt that he would save them from these corrupt elites, the corrupt rich people, because Jackson had promised that he would give the government back to the ordinary citizens, and that he would get rid of these rich, corrupt officials. So as you can see, Jackson's inauguration day truly did set the tone for his presidency. Thank you for watching this flip video. Please go to Edmodo, answer the homework questions. Remember, this was an educational video, so I really hope you took notes using your outline. And if there's anything you don't understand, go back and watch it a couple more times. Thank you, and see you in class tomorrow.
I'm going to take a page out of Andrew Jackson's notebook. I'm going to be a president, not for the ordinary citizen in person, but for the ordinary mint. Yes, I can see it now. President Mr. Mint. And we'll paint that White House green, and we'll call it the greenhouse. Ha! I love it already.